Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles, a certified hypnotist and a life coach. Every Saturday afternoon at 2:30 Central Time, I make a short 5 or 10-minute video on some aspect of coaching or the hypnotic arts and sciences. Today, I want to talk about probably what I'm best known for, which is medical hypnotism. I've been in practice here in the Chicago-Atlanta area for 30 years. My practice has 3 areas of focus: oncology, cancer care, bariatrics, clinical weight control, and fertility, the enhancement of a woman's natural fertility, either to get pregnant naturally or to enhance the effectiveness of IVF. I'm probably best known for my work in oncology. I'm the author of the National Guild of Hypnotists curriculum for medical hypnosis and also for hypnotic oncology. So I know about this. Now, medical hypnotism isn't anything special. It's just hypnotism. But you can't have any gaps in your skill set if you're going to take up this work. You have to know how to do it all. You got to know how to do parts work. You got to know how to do regressions. You got to know how to do subconscious purchase. You got to know how to do forgiveness work. You got to be able to work with weight and smoking and pain. And you have to have everything that a well-rounded practitioner should have. The reason for this, you're going to encounter your clients having problems in a myriad of areas. And if you've got any big gaps in your skill set, you quickly are going to get in over your head and not know what to do. In medical hypnotism, word of mouth is very, very important. People tell other people, or they hear it from their physicians who has heard it from their patients. So you don't want to do anything that will mess up the quality of your word of mouth. And if you start making mistakes or dropping the ball with a client, that's what's going to happen. Another thing to bear in mind if you want to do this work is that when you do medical hypnotism, you are entering the most regulated and litigious area of hypnotic practice. Malpractice litigation happens all the time in the medical world. And when attorneys sue, they usually sue everyone in the chain of care. And even if you've not done anything wrong, if you're part of the chain of care, you've done some work with that patient, you're probably going to get a subpoena, and you're going to have to go to court to defend yourself and be removed from the case. It's happened to me twice. So understand that if you're in practice long enough, this is going to happen, and you're going to have to deal with that legal aspect. Also, medicine's regulated. You have an absolute right as a consulting hypnotist to practice hypnotism, but you have no right to practice medicine without a license. So you have to be very careful about what you say, what you promise, how you hold yourself out to the public, that you don't cross important boundaries. In the Guild, we teach you this. It's in our standards of practice, and of course I go over it in the medical course. But if you're with some other organization or you haven't had the formal training in this area, please download the standards of practice of the National Guild of Hypnotists, ngh.net. Go to legislation and download it, and be sure you follow it carefully. Another aspect of medical hypnotism that you have to bear in mind is that insurance does not cover hypnosis by and large. Sometimes you'll find a client who has a gold-plated policy and they will get some coverage. And there is a current procedural terminology code for hypnosis, but a lot of insurance companies simply will not reimburse for it. So you've got to be able to run your practice fairly lean. As there's no insurance reimbursement for this, you have to price your services so that people can afford to pay you out of their pocket. And a lot of diseases are very, very expensive to have, and the clients can be tapped out. So you can't charge the high rates that some hypnotic practitioners charge for other services. To do medical hypnosis, you basically are trusting the fact that the body has an inherent wisdom. It knows how to be healthy. It knows how to repair itself. Something is interfering with that ability. And what you're going to end up doing is working to build the client's resilience physically and emotionally. And what this does is changes their biochemistry. Feelings, in addition to everything else they are biochemical states in the human body. So when you change a person's emotional landscape, you're also changing their biochemistry. And we know that the emotions of confidence and optimism and hope, that these things do boost resilience and change the body in a healthy way that increases resilience to illness and boosts healing. Also, we're looking at what some people call the placebo effect, which is just a way of talking about mind over matter. Studies have shown again and again that if you give a person a placebo and say this will help you, even if they know it's a placebo, it will often help them. You say that you're going to give them a tranquilizer, but it's a placebo, but you give it to them in a blue capsule, that'll work much better than if you give it to them in a red capsule. So the mind has a tremendous ability to control the body and to influence the body, and that's what you're working with. The primary methods I use in my work are imagery, metaphor, and restructuring. Imagery is when you ask a person to vividly imagine the desired outcome, and I usually break that down into a number of steps with different images along the way. Years ago, radiation oncologist Carl Symington wrote his book, Getting Well Again, where he talked about working with cancer patients, imagining little Pac-Man eating up the cancer cells. He had some spectacular successes initially, although subsequent research hasn't supported that as thoroughly. But imagery is a great tool, asking a person to imagine health. But there's a problem. Imagery can be general, just imagine themselves happy in the future, and that's perfectly safe. Or it can be specific, imagining changes in specific body processes or body parts. Now that in some way is much more effective, but you have to know what you're doing. For example, if you've got a patient who has arthritis, you need to know that osteoarthritis means that nature has taken something that should be in a joint and removed it. Whereas for rheumatoid arthritis, nature has brought something into the joint that shouldn't be there, and you have to design your imagery accordingly. Metaphors are a way of talking about something as if it were something else. This can often give a new understanding of a process. For example, I had a client recently who was having chronic recurrent fever. Now, fever is actually part of your body's immune response. It's your body's attempt to make itself inhospitable for the reproduction of viruses or bacteria. So I used a metaphor that, when you have some water that isn't clean or it's polluted, one of the best ways to get it pure is to boil it. So I want you to think about this fever as your body kind of purifying itself. Oh, that's interesting. And as the fear of the fever went away, the fever actually remissed. And then we have restructurings. Restructurings are a kind of logical argument that you can mention sort of in passing. Smoking is really injurious to your body, and you need your body to be able to live. So to the extent that you want to live and prosper, you really need to get control of that smoking. These inserted into hypnotic pattern have a very powerful effect at changing a person's conscious responses. So those are the primary tools I use in my work. And I use all the others too, like I said, parts, regressions, forgiveness work, and so on. Medical hypnotism is very fulfilling work. Seeing a person scared, frightened, and sick go from that to health is magnificent. It's part of the reason why, even though I could retire, I don't plan to. I'm working less, but I find I get so much back emotionally from the work I do that I want to keep on doing it. Hey, thank you very much for your time and attention. I will be back next week with another short talk. I'm going to be talking about the pivot and making the pivot. Tune in if you want to find out what that's all about. As always, if I can be helpful to you, please feel free to let me know that, either through email, a telephone call, or messenger. And feel free to go to my website and check out the material I make there. There's quite a bit. And there's a newsletter and a free report and even self-hypnotic recordings that you can download to your computer. So stay well and stay happy. Bye-bye now.